Often, project managers have a responsibility to formally appraise their team members' performance, both during and at the end of a project. But even when this is not a requirement on you, I do believe that we have a duty to review the performance of our team members. Performance reviews are planned meetings that have a number of objectives. On projects, we may have any or even all of them on our minds. They can give feedback, which can help a team member to learn from their experiences. They can support professional growth and development, and support goal setting and career planning. They can assess levels of performance, and they can inform organisational decisions on things like deployment, remuneration, promotions, or even on sanctions. Our sister channel, Management Courses, has a free course on feedback, and I'll put a link to it in the description below. In assessing performance, it's highly unlikely that a project manager will have access to accurate, real-time performance data. This is the sort of thing we only usually get in certain types of operational role. As a result, you'll need to make use of a number of other forms of information. These will include things like assessment of the completed work that the team member has either produced themselves or contributed to. There'll be your own observations of that team member at work, and also reported observations from their colleagues, and particularly any supervisory team leaders. There may even be formal 360-degree feedback exercises that you can take advantage of to properly understand how that team member is perceived by a range of different people. And in our course on feedback, we also have a specific video on 360-degree feedback, which you can take a look at. And again, there'll be a link in the description. Finally, don't overlook the value of team member self-assessment in building up your picture of their performance. Any decent team member will probably have a good idea of how they're performing and where they perceive their strengths, their weaknesses, and their development needs to lie. I will divide my assessment of the performance review process into the most obvious structure I can find, that of before the review, during the review, and after the review. Before the performance review. Preparation is essential for both you and your team member. You need to review a number of things in preparation. Your notes from previous performance reviews and meetings with that team member. Your own observations of that team member and anything that other observers have reported to you, and any goals or objectives that the team member has set. Use this review to determine which points you consider to be important to discuss at the formal meeting, and which are minor and may or may not come up, but are not going to be on the agenda. Use this understanding to set an agenda and to make sure that that agenda covers all the important elements that need to go, both into your understanding of that individual, but also whatever formal process your organisation requires of you. Send the agenda to your team member and invite them to comment on it. And if there is anything they want to add to the agenda, allow them to do so. And finally, encourage them to make their own notes and to prepare for the meeting. The performance review discussion. A performance review is not a one-way conversation. I recommend that you start by inviting your team member to share their thoughts on their performance. In particular, find out what you think they've done well and what they're good at, and also where they have concerns or where they think they need to develop. A performance review is not a one-way conversation. I recommend that you start by inviting your team member to share their thoughts on their performance. In particular, find out what they think they've done well and what they're good at, and also where they have concerns or where they think they need to develop. If relevant, then make sure you bring the focus onto any performance areas that are covered by specific goals or objectives or targets that the individual has committed to, or that the organisation has set for them. Now, it's easy to focus on the improvements that you think need to be made, but remember, it is absolutely critical to bring the focus on recognition of success and contribution and celebrating what the team member has achieved. And to help you, I have a simple set of guidelines that I like to keep in mind. First, if performance falls below the expected standard for that individual, then I would focus about 80% of the conversation on remedial feedback and the remaining 20% on reinforcing good performance levels. However, if the performance is above or at the required standard, then I would focus 80% of the conversation on positive reinforcement, with just the remaining 20% on remedial feedback. Finally, if performance is well above the required standard, then I would drop the remedial feedback altogether and spend the whole time looking at positive reinforcement. When you've done that, move the focus of the performance appraisal onto future development. Discuss their aspirations and future career plans. Then look at the development needs that will help them to meet them and the opportunities that you can help them to identify to meet those development needs, whether it's in new roles or formal learning. End the performance review with an action plan. This needs to be achievable with timescales and success measures. With this in place, summarize the review and agree the follow-up actions that you, the reviewer, will take after the meeting. Follow up after the performance review. Whatever you agreed to do to follow up and support your team member, put it in your diary and make sure that you do it. As a project leader, supporting and developing your team members is one of your absolute most important responsibilities. Please do give this video a like if you've enjoyed it or learned from it. I'll be making loads more great project management videos for you, so please do subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of them. And I'll look forward to seeing you in the next one.